And good afternoon and welcome to the Food Show. Glad to have you alongside. We are at the end. It's hard to believe. We're at the end of August. It's a shock. I don't know where the summer went. We have some fine weather out there, and there's, I hope, a few fine days left for us to enjoy the summer of 2011. But there's lots of other non-weather things to enjoy coming up. This is a season of festivals. This is the season of markets. This is the season of farm shows. This is the season of all kinds of great eating and harvest stuff that's happening in the region and just outside. And we're going to talk a little bit about that as the show proceeds today. And of course, we're here on 570 News. And if you go to 570news.com, I'm going to wave to you because you can see us here in the studio by going to 570news.com, looking at the webcast button, clicking that, and you can see what's happening here in the studio. We live stream it, and you can see everything that's happening in here in our cozy confines. And I want to welcome a new operator we have with us in this. I have to back up a little bit because I don't touch really very many of the buttons that are operating right here. I don't have that kind of training. I'm not a radio guy by nature. I haven't had any formal training. I don't really even know what all these buttons do. I just was told at some point, sit down, talk into this green sock, and when you see the little red light come on, and smile a lot. So that's what I've tried to do. The young lady that's helping behind the scenes is, her name is Laura, and I want to welcome her to the show.
Thank you very much.
It's good to have you along.
It's very intense pressing all these buttons back here, I must say.
I know. Yeah, I can imagine. Are you an eater?
Yes.
Because one of the requirements of being on the show is that you might have to jump in every once in a while.
As a button pusher and a college student and a 570 News worker,
okay.
I love food.
Yeah, you love food. Okay, well we'll check in with you as your time here progresses, and we'll get a little bit more information from you. I always like to talk about food, of course, and I need to introduce some people that are in the food business with me here in the studio. The first one is across from me is Susan Broughton of All Things Tea in Kitchener's Belmont Village. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Andrew. Thanks for having me on.
And All Things Tea says exactly what you do.
That's right.
Everything that has to do with tea.
And more.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
That's good to know. The shop has been around for a few years now. It's not a new shop necessarily.
That's right. We opened our doors in 2006, and so we're into our 6th year of operation in the heart of Belmont Village, and we like it there a lot. Yeah,
it seems to be a little bit of a growing kind of area. I mean, we've got the new culinary studio there. There's a couple new restaurants. It's a nice little adjunct, I guess, to the sort of the main downtown core. And what's interesting too is I think a lot of people think it is Waterloo, but it's actually in Kitchener.
I know it is actually Kitchener, and it's its own little area, and it's got a really nice vibe there. And we have some new businesses there, like the culinary studio and. Like you were talking about the creperie. And
then there's that great, I think it's called the Checkerboard. I haven't been there in about 5 or 6 years.
Hey, it's a great spot too.
It's sort of one of those triple D, diners, drive-ins, and dives kind of basic diner thing. And
it's been there for a really long time.
I think really great breakfasts they have there. I think that's one of their claims to fame.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And also joining us in the studio, and she makes regular appearances here, actually, because of the time of the year especially, and it is Anna Contini of FoodLink Waterloo Region. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Andrew. Pleasure to be here.
I think it was about this time last year that you were here.
I think it was.
And you're here for a very special purpose.
I am indeed.
And it's a very exciting time because this is one of the festive food highlights, I think, of the year. Every time roughly this time of the year, we have this great event, and it is called
Taste Local, Taste Fresh, and that pretty much sums it up.
10 or so years?
This is the 8th annual,
okay,
so we're getting close to our
That's wonderful.
10th, yes.
And you've been involved since the beginning, or did you come on later?
Not quite. For me, this will be number 5. So yeah, but it's always a new mix of farmers and chefs, and we're back in St. Jacobs this year. But every year it's new teams and fabulous new dishes as well.
Yeah, you must have seen it grow quite a bit because there's just so much critical mass building and momentum building around food and people.
Especially local food. It's, continues to gain momentum, and more people are learning about this event, and we have sold out the last couple of years. So
that's right, usually by August.
The warning if you haven't got your tickets
well, that's why we're here. We want to remind people, number one, that it's happening. I think just the general awareness. But we also want to say, hey, buy tickets, come, spend the day. As I've said many times before, you get a passport to Flavortown.
Oh, I like that.
Because you do get a passport.
You do indeed. Yes.
And we'll talk a little bit about that later. But we have very interesting lineups of people that you've paired up here. We've got, for instance, Liaison College, one of the cooking schools is matched up with Gillespie's Gardens, Seven Shores in Uptown Waterloo is teamed up with Fertile Ground. I guess that's an organic CSA, I think. The Stone Crock with egg farmer Lowell and Phyllis Penner. So there's really, this is the way the pairing works. We'll just tease people a little bit with that. And we'll sort of leave the real package for a little later in the show.
Right.
But certainly, what I'd like you to do is go to visit All Things Tea. It's on facebook.com/allthingstea, and you can see a little bit about that company and the great things they do with tea. Now, I have to confess here, Susan, that I'm not a tea drinker, and I'm gonna. I think I'll play. I think what I'm going to do is I'm usually very nice to my guests.
Good to know.
Yeah, but I'm going to play a little bit of a devil's advocate a little later in the show. But I want you to see. I want to see your saleswomanship and sales ability to try to convince me that I'm a coffee drinker and I dip into tea every once in a while. Are you a tea drinker, Anna?
You know what?
I bet you are.
I am more of a coffee drinker.
Okay.
I have two people to convince.
I do appreciate tea as well.
Yeah.
But
I had you pegged for an herbal tea drinker because I know you're an athlete and you run marathons and things.
But you know what? We athletes need the caffeine.
You I know, absolutely. Yeah.
But no, I go both ways. But I'm a little more of a coffee drinker.
Okay,
but I'm delighted to learn more today.
Excellent.
I'm really interested in seeing if you can convince me because we've got some interesting materials to see too. If you're looking on the webcast, we've got some stuff over on our 570 News food show sideboard.
Yes, indeed.
That's got some tea stuff on it, so we'll take a look at that. And I should point out too that Anna Contini of FoodLink, Waterloo Region, you can find her at it's foodlink.ca, correct?
That's correct.
And that's all you need to know, and you can find all the links to the various programs that are there, the mapping, how to find local food, and of course information about why you're primarily here, and that's the Taste Local, Taste Fresh. Because all year long it's buy local, buy fresh, and then it evolves into this day where it's Taste Local, Taste Fresh.
That's right. The event is Taste Local.
Don't I have an amazing grasp of all this stuff?
You do. You do.
It's like I've done it before or something. I don't know. Now, I had a friend. Well, people that are listeners will recognize, and I'll talk to Greg in the back of the TV end of things. I got holding up a box of crackers. This is from Jake Richards of Grape Expectations. He's our wine guy that comes in, sommelier. And he dropped this off to you, didn't he? Outside,
Yes.
He was driving by. It's a drive-by drop-off.
It really was.
So it's Soylent Green, all-natural crackers, and they call it people food. And it's a legitimate box of crackers with all the nutrition facts on the side of it, although I think one or two ingredients might be left out. But if you remember the movie from the 70s, I think it was the 70s, Charlton Heston played in a movie called Soylent Green. And it's a science fiction movie, and has a pretty freaky realization at the very end of the movie. And I'll do the, what do you call that, spoiler alert. I won't, excuse me, struggling with a cold here. I won't divulge what Soylent Green is, but look it up, watch the movie. It's probably pretty hokey now by our terms. However, I think some of the climate issues that are brought up in it, there's 40 million people in New York City. There's a huge heat wave, like the temperatures don't drop. They're very, very hot. It has great implications for food, agriculture, sustainability, all the kinds of things that we're talking about today. So it's kind of a funny movie, and to see these Soylent Green crackers, I think was pretty funny as well. Anyway, watch the movie and you can decide. Anna Contini from FoodLink is here with me, Susan Broughton of All Things Tea. We should point out, I think, at this time that Taste Real has a field dinner coming up in September 11th. On Sunday, September 11th from 1 to 5. And it's much the same, I guess, as Taste Local, Taste Fresh. This is a Guelph version of it, or Wellington County version of it, at Strom's Farm on Wellington Road. And you can get more information by going to tastereal.ca. Now, it says here that order your tickets by August 19th to be entered into a draw, but I'm sure there's probably still tickets available. And I think it's an open field kind of thing where you're sitting on a table in an open farmer's field. So that's kind of a neat thing, and that's going to have a couple of interesting different chefs and restaurants involved. One of whom is Ken Hodgins of Envers of Morriston, a nice little restaurant. Do you know Envers of Morriston?
Yeah.
Just down, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's been on the
Great
show a
restaurant.
couple times. Yeah, have you been? Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it a fun place? Eh? And
Lovely.
he's doing some really, really interesting things with a lot of his own foraging. He does.
Oh,
wow.
He goes out and picks his own mushrooms and finds stuff in the fields that he grows and knows if there's
that's
special
amazing.
sources. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the field dinner, Taste Real, and more information on tastereal.ca. What else do we need to talk about here? Have you eaten in a special restaurant lately? Have you visited a restaurant? I always like to get I spend a lot of time in restaurants. Basically that's sort of all I do, really.
You're lucky. I have a favorite. I always go back to Bombay.
In Guelph?
In Masala Bay. Sorry.
Oh, Masala Bay. Okay,
right. On Regina.
Right.
There.
Yeah. You like?
I absolutely love their food.
It's
They're
a
a
popular
nice
place.
family.
Mhm.
They have fantastic food.
Yeah, they have a good buffet. I mean, it's very
Yes,
popular at
yes.
lunch. I'm not a huge buffet fan personally myself, but I understand a lot of people
They do
like
a
it.
really good job.
Yeah. I forget his name now. Ritesh
Yes.
Bhargava, and he's been on the show as well. Very exciting guy, and I thought you might be interested in him because he's got a real knowledge of spices too, and they do some wonderful things with spices.
That's what I love.
Yeah.
Their blends are, well, I can't. They have chana masala, the chickpeas, which
yeah.
and they always laugh at me because I always order the exact same thing when I go. I still love this dish. I can't
deviate when you have
It
a
is.
favorite.
It
Yeah.
is.
I'm not a vegetarian by any stretch of the imagination, but I try sometimes to reduce the amount of red meat and just overly healthy things like that, and go with just the healthy things. And I think Indian food is one of the ways that you can do that. You know, you can get potatoes. Like, when does ever potatoes and cauliflower in that nice sauce and some onions turn into a full-fledged meal? I mean, it is. Yeah, and the same with things like chickpeas, and when they can do that with vegetables and you have some rice with it, you know, you don't need a protein.
No,
and
you
nothing
don't.
against protein, and I eat a lot of protein in terms of animal form proteins. But and Anna, have you? You're
I live
sort
in
of
Fergus, so
Okay.
I sort of, for some reason, tend to dine out more in that neck of the woods.
makes sense.
But we're still excited about finally getting an ethnic restaurant in Fergus.
Oh.
We do have a few good restaurants there. We've got the Breadalbin being one.
Is Cork there
But
too?
yes, that's in Allura. Allura has
Allura,
a few
right,
good ones.
yeah.
But there's a restaurant in downtown Fergus, a couple of blocks from where I live, called the Tandoori Grill.
Okay.
Speaking of Indian cuisine and spices, and we love that place. It's just, as you say, you know, simple vegetarian things can taste great with the right spicing, and it's always busy. Weekday nights, middle of the winter. It's a fun, warm, happening place. So
Well, there you go.
we tend to go there.
This segment has been dominated by Soylent Green and Indian cuisine. I think it's time for us to get out of here now, Laura. If I'm looking at the clock right, I'm Andrew Coppolino. This is the Food Show. We have to have a short break. When we come back, we'll speak more in depth with Anna Condini and she'll have some very, very, very tasting notes about food links, taste local, taste fresh. This is 570 News.
This is the Food Show with Andrew Coppolino. To call Andrew, 519-570-2545. By cell, star 570. Or toll free, 1-800-570-5715. The news.
And welcome back once again. Any rock lobster at Taste Local, Taste Fresh, Anna?
Well, no,
That's kinda hard to source
we don't
locally, isn't it?
exactly have local lobster around here, Andrew. But if you know any sources, let me know.
Well, yeah. When I'm out in the fields and the streams and little ponds, I'll look around and see if there's any fake crayfish that have gotten somehow abnormally large.
Yeah.
Anna Contini, tell us a little bit about Taste Local. Well, tell us first a little bit about Food Link, the idea, the principal philosophy behind it.
Yeah. Well, Food Link is essentially a non-profit grassroots organization established in 2002. And I'd say one of the key ideas behind it is increasing consumer access to local food. And we do that in a number of ways. We're probably best known for our Buy Local, Buy Fresh map, a listing of about 75 maps in Waterloo region that sell their own produce or whatever food they raise on the farm.
Yeah, the map is actually a physical map, but it's also something you can access at your website.
That's right.
too.
Yes. So we're about increasing consumer access to local food as well as making connections between all the links in the food chain, right from production through to consumption. So that would include
Food
distribution.
Link.
Hey, yeah, doesn't that title make sense?
Just dawned on me.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a great organization, and it's one of, there's other food links in other regions.
Yeah, they're not
correctly?
actually called Food Link, but they are
Similar
organizations that have acquired the Buy Local, Buy Fresh license, so they do similar versions of the map. We've actually shared the license with about 12 other areas, not only in Ontario, but we've gone coast to coast now.
Great.
So yeah.
Now,
it's really
in
taken
5
off.
years that you've been there, that's enough time probably to sort of get an idea of trending, tracking, quantitative research or whatever you want to call it. Like, have you seen this thing grow, or in what capacity has it grown?
Oh yeah, it's grown hugely. I think part of it is just the whole local foods movement. It's taking off. Consumers are looking for local more. It's part of their consciousness now. Whether they're in a grocery store, they're keeping an eye out for where the food comes from. I would say many more consumers are stopping by farm gates and local food on-farm stores and doing their shopping that way. In their dining experiences, they have an eye open for local food specials, and then great events like Taste Local, Taste Fresh. So it's all good.
If we go to foodlink.ca, you'll find a Taste Local, Taste Fresh button. If you click on it, or a little segment of that website, you can open up a whole bunch of information about tickets, participants, sponsors for the 2011 Taste Local, Taste Fresh. So let's say that you give us an overview of what that is, where it's happening.
Sure.
And we can talk a little bit about some of the farmers that are involved and the restaurants.
Yeah. Well, it's the 8th annual Taste Local, Taste Fresh event. This is the 3rd year in St. Jacobs. It is an outdoor culinary showcase, is how I would sum it up, where we have paired up 20 local chefs with 20 local farmers or food producers. And so if you can imagine a big, beautifully decorated field, this is just in St. Jacobs at the trailhead at the foot of Albert Street. And participants, first of all, they get a lovely one-of-a-kind pottery plate made by local potter Vicky Lucas. And then they go around to each of the 20 tents, and they get a wonderful food sample. And it's actually more than a sample. It's supposed to be 2 to 3 bites, but you'd be hard-pressed to eat all the food that's being offered.
Yeah, I'm a big eater. Like, I can pack it away. I can eat a lot. And when I'm at that event, it's hard to get all of that.
It really is. It really is.
Right,
but you got to give it your best shot.
There's some beverages there as well?
Yes, we have Peely Island Winery as our sponsor again, and Wellington Brewery as well.
Good.
And the other really nice aspect of this event is we have live music. The Tim Lewis Jazz Trio is going to be there again.
I think a name pretty familiar to people here in the region.
He's a wonderful musician. And so it's a wonderful atmosphere. It's beautifully decorated with the harvest theme. We have it's kind of a mingling type of event, but we also have a larger pavilion tent where people can sit down and enjoy a glass of wine and chat with friends. And it's very, very laid back, and it's a lot of fun.
September 18th, starting at 2 p.m. out in
That's
St.
correct.
Jacobs. Like, I look at this list of names, and there's too many to go through here, so I apologize. I can't list everybody. One of the things I guess that strikes me is, or you can answer this question for me. Is it an opportunity for unknown people to get together? Like, is it naturally assumed that they know each other already?
No,
you try to pair up.
I have the interesting and sometimes challenging job of matchmaking, figuring out who should go with whom.
I think there could be a Food Network TV show here.
It could. It has potential there. Yeah, I often start out by asking the chefs if they have a preference for a particular food item that they'd like to work with. In some cases, the chef already has a relationship with a local producer, and they might request that. But more often than not, I would say it's about facilitating new relationships. And not only with who they're paired with, but all of the participants, all of the chefs and all of the food producers have an opportunity to meet. We have something, we just had it last week, called a meet and greet, where they're all invited. They can meet one another. Yes, M-E-E-T, not M-E-A-T. It's not only about the meat, right? So, yeah, it's an opportunity for everybody to get to know one another, and a lot of relationships come out of that beyond the Taste Local, Taste Fresh event itself. A lot of behind-the-scenes stuff. But, yeah, the matchmaking is always interesting. And farmers and chefs are kind of from different worlds. Yeah. So I won't say it's not without its challenges, but the chef and the farmer have to discuss beforehand first of all, what's available and what kind of quantities are needed. And generally the chef will pick up everything beforehand, and a lot of it is prepared in their licensed kitchen.
Right.
Sometimes there at the actual event there is some barbecuing and finishing off of the dish. But Andrew, you'll recall that so much of it is about the presentation.
Yes.
You know that saying, you eat with your eyes first, and that's very much true at Taste Local. Everything looks so
stunning.
Incredible.
In
my
close
goodness.
confines and under sort of less than perfect restaurant sort of arrangements, right, where you've got
It's
people working in a
incredible
field.
what they can do.
If you look on the website, there's a nice picture. The Taste Local, Taste Fresh button, I guess, gets you to looks like a plank or a board, and little crudités on there. It looks lovely, and I recognize that dish from something from last year.
And you can actually click through to see photos of Sarah Geidlinger has been our event photographer, and she is again. And you can click through to see last year's photos of the event. Just don't do it when you're hungry, because
That's like this show. Whenever I come on this show, I start talking about food, and I realize, my stomach's growling.
I know.
I guess the other thing that's important about this is an opportunity for. Well, first of all, I can see restaurants which are very used to promoting themselves and saying, hey, come and eat here, have my hamburgers, try my steak, try my, my chana masala. And then you've got farmers who are really behind the scenes kind of people. They're not good. I mean, I shouldn't say this across the board, but many are not interested in self-promotion. They don't really care that much about, not necessarily not care, but they're so busy and they're very focused on producing. They don't have time, I guess, to promote themselves and to be, to get the word out there. So this is an opportunity for them to talk to customers that will buy their produce, that will go to these restaurants, that will go to the farms.
It's
so
very
there's that kind
much
of communication that happens
about
too.
the farmers and the food producers promoting what they do, and I always encourage them to bring along their publicity materials and really publicize what they're all about, and remind people how they can where they can find them and what the products they have are available. So it's very much about allowing the farmers and food producers to be in the spotlight as well.
So we're summing up here that it's going to be September 18th, starting at 2 o'clock out in St. Jacobs. Taste Local, Taste Fresh. I got that correct, right?
That's correct.
Foodlink.ca is the place to get more website
But the
information.
thing I really want to emphasize is that we have sold out the last couple of years.
Okay, so hurry.
Two things. Actually, we have an early bird ticket price of $65 per ticket until the end of August, which I believe is Tuesday, end of day. So if you want to take advantage of that early bird price, you can just click on to our foodlink.ca website. We also have books of 10 available at a discounted rate of $600, so that comes to $60 a ticket.
That's good.
So we won't actually have tickets for sale at the door. Chances are we will be sold out before September 18th.
They better get in touch with you soon.
Yes, that's right.
Just give us, it's hard, like I say, we can't go through all of these great names and farms, but what are maybe two of the highlights that you would sort of identify as something you're really looking forward to seeing?
Goodness.
Hard to do.
You mean I
know.
have to pick out two highlights from this list of amazing food
If you didn't know anything
here?
about Foodlink, what would be the one that would intrigue you the most?
Well,
Because I got one in mind. I'm going to.
You got one in mind?
Yeah. Do you want me to go with it?
Okay,
do you want me to do it so you don't have to be? So you can be politically correct.
I'm going to just tell you one that kind of jumped out at me that I thought was just, I don't know, it just sounded intriguing and it sounded wonderful and a little bit different. Seven Shores is paired with Fertile Ground this year.
Okay.
And they are doing rice paper spring rolls inspired with a mix of Asian greens, beets, carrots, and fresh herbs. Gluten-free and vegan.
Wow.
So there you go. It's
They're
kind of an interesting little
aspects,
niche
yeah.
there. Yeah,
Well,
and
I'll tell you what I'm sort of intrigued by.
Which one catches your eye?
Lance Edwards from Puttycomb House, and I know Lance with that. And Top Market Rabbitry. That's the one that I've got my eye on.
I know. That is when
I'm going to go to Lance and I'm going to say, hey, what's up, Doc?
Yeah. Top Market Rabbitry is new. This is one of our new producers on board this year, and I just had a feeling that they would go really well with Lance Edwards of Puttycomb House, because he is always looking for, I don't know, something a little bit different.
So you're a matchmaker and sort of a food whisperer or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, you got a bit of a sort of a Zen thing going on there, right? To figure out. Well, that's Anna Contini, and she is an official with Taste Local, Taste Fresh. The organization that's producing this great event is, of course, Foodlink. Waterloo region, you can visit and get more information about this great stuff that's going on there, foodlink.ca. And make sure that you get in touch with them before the end of this month to ensure that you'll have a chance at getting a discounted rate on your tickets, because they are going to sell out. Anna, thanks very much for joining me.
My pleasure.
Well, stay tuned, because when we return, I have to let Laura it's time for a spot of tea. That's my little...
That was very good.
Yeah, let's have a spot of tea. Let's have a little spot of tea.
Very good.
We'll be talking to Susan Broughton of All Things Tea when we return. You're listening to 570 News.
The show.
And there we are. Welcome back again. This is the third segment. The show just flies when you're having food fun. Laura, over there in the operations end of things.
Yes, hello.
Do you eat Caribbean food at all?
I've never had Caribbean food.
Oh, well, then I got the place for you to go, because I've just reconnected with Rainbow Caribbean Cuisine right in the heart of downtown Kitchener at King Street, just between Queen, I guess, and what is that, Frederick. And I've had a couple of great meals there. Everybody seems to love it. It's really relaxed, laid back, and they got great things like, jerk pork, jerk chicken, curried beef, curried goat, rotis, fish dinners, funny breakfasts like ackee, which is a fruit. Mm-hmm. It's a fruit, and they often have ackee and codfish, I think. So there's just some really interesting there. And, people love it. I watch people going in and out of there, and they're absolutely loving it. And I've had 3 or 4 meals there now, and I'm loving it too. So give it a try.
I will.
This is the Food Show, of course. 570news.com is the place where you can go via internet. Click on the webcast, and you can see what's happening here in the studio. I'm waving to you right now. Hello, how are you doing up there? I've got Anna Contini from FoodLink, as well as Susan Broughton, who is from All Things Tea. I'm going to confess right now, I want you to convert me. I'm not a tea drinker.
All right.
What do I need to do to get to love tea?
I think the most important thing to realize, I think North America has that everlasting love affair with coffee, but in recent years you'll notice that there's been a lot more focus on tea, and that's with good reason. We have a lot more access now to really good tea. I guess if I was to convince you, the first thing I'd tell you is ditch the bagged tea.
Okay. That makes sense.
Not that I'm putting anything down, but loose leaf, for really a similar type price point, you're getting a whole lot better quality.
Tea is really quite an amazing ingredient or product, I guess, isn't it? It turns out that I understand, it's the most consumed beverage after water in the world. The Irish are the biggest tea drinkers per capita.
Yes.
And and this is going to be a disappointment to some people. I drink my coffee black, so I'll probably drink my tea black as well. That milk renders the health effects in tea null and void. I didn't know that.
That's true.
So you put milk in your tea, and you're not getting you get a nice flavor maybe that you like, but not necessarily the benefits. Okay.
No, that's right.
Okay, is tea grown? I have more people now than ever drinking tea. Is this something that obviously has spurred you on to open up a tea shop?
Yeah, my husband and I opened the shop together. We've loved tea for as long as I can remember. But just go into your average grocery store and look how much the tea aisle itself has grown.
Okay, that's a good indicator, I guess. Yeah.
From 2006 to today, it has grown exponentially. I expect it will continue to do so. Mm-hmm. The fact is it's really healthy. It's really tasty. There's a lot of variety. There's so many different growing regions that you'd never get bored.
Okay, tell me about some of those. I mean,
some of the growing regions?
You've got, I would say, dozens and dozens of teas available.
I have over 250 teas in my shop, and that's truly the tip of the iceberg. As far as growing regions, of course, there is Japan, there's China. India is a huge grower of tea, Sri Lanka, but there are also regions that maybe the average tea consumer might not know about, but Africa actually has some amazing teas that come from there. There are Korean teas. We have herbal teas from South Africa that are very popular here now. So, I mean, it really is it's funny to be on the show with Anna talking about local food. And I'm providing a product that comes from all corners of the earth, and it's incredible.
Well, it was local somewhere.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, they blend wine. I know that if you go to a proper coffee shop here in town, they'll make their own blends of coffee. Do you do the same thing with tea?
We do. We have blends that are through suppliers, but we also do a lot of custom blending at All Things Tea. We do classes where people can learn how to blend teas, which is really fun, but we have an Ontario ice wine white tea, which is fantastic. So a lot of people who are coming through there, tourists, really enjoy that. We did our own custom blend, a Kate and William. I had to. A Kate and William royal tea, which is fantastic.
Did you have a tea party?
We always have tea parties. Yes, yeah, we did. And it's so that is an Earl Grey, which is a very traditional British type tea, and that has a little bit of vanilla and lavender blended in with it. So we do a lot of custom blends. I'm
speaking with Susan Broughton, All Things Tea, and you can see a little bit more about, I understand a website is under construction right now, but if you go to facebook.com/allthingstea, you can get a little bit more information about the shop. So how do I drink tea? You say get rid of the tea bag.
Yes.
Sometimes I put tea bags on my eyes when I...
That's okay. You can still do that with loose leaf, though.
Oh, can I? Oh, really? No, I never put tea bags on my eyes.
Get rid of the bag.
Okay.
To make a good cup of tea, which we get asked about a lot, it first of all really depends on the type of tea you're making. So if you want to make a good cup of black tea, boiling water. Okay, so really the important things are the quality of your water. Make sure you use a consistent quantity and your steep time. Those are the things that will affect your cup of tea. So for a good cup of black tea, I would say a heaping teaspoon per 6 to 8 ounces. I use a reverse osmosis water. Waterloo region has very hard water.
Okay, not good for tea.
You taste that because it's a very delicate leaf. So, and then for a black tea, you do between a 2 and 3 minute steep generally, and then you get those leaves out
of there. Okay.
You do, and that's going to give you, as a general rule of thumb, a very nice cup of tea.
Right, and you obviously drink your tea black then too.
I do. Yeah. I drink it clear.
Now we're going to ask Greg, our internet guy, TV video guy, in the other parts of the building, to take a look at our 570 News Food Show sideboard. And now that is a lovely piece of art that you've got there.
Thank you.
We'll talk about that first, and that is a samovar. Which is a traditional Russian style of tea making, I guess.
Yes, it's so samovars date very far back. I think it was actually considered one of Russia's first small appliances. And it's monumentally
large.
This will be the center, and they really are a work of art. This will be the center of the table in Russia. Samovar actually loosely translates to self-boiler, and the reason being is you'll see the bottom part. It has a spigot. They will boil water in that piece. So the old samovars used to have piping that would run through the center of that urn, and they would put in like wood chips or pine cones even, and there'd be a ventilation chamber, and so they would light that, which would boil the water, and then you'll see on the top there's a crown with a teapot on it. So the neat thing that the Russians do is that teapot will hold a tea concentrate. And so as the steam and the water underneath is passing by, that keeps the concentrate
heated.
Wow. And then so they'll pour the concentrate into cups, and then the people will go and pour the rest of the water to dilute it to the strength that they wish to have.
Yeah, so if you poured more concentrate than another person, you can get a stronger...
Exactly.
Well, that's an amazing... I didn't realize it worked that way. I just thought it was a pot of tea it prepares it. That's quite amazing. Yeah. Now, these ones are fairly expensive.
They are.
They're not things you're going to buy sort of for, weekend tea drinking.
No, I don't think so. Excuse me, but there are a lot of people out there that take their tea very seriously.
Do they ever?
And if you're going to have a tea collection, this is definitely a really cool thing to have. They're electric now, so you can really functionally use it.
I find that very, very interesting. That's enough. Yeah. That's enough to convince me.
Oh, right.
But also, there's some very interesting jars you've got there.
Yeah.
This is just a sampling of the kind of teas that are available.
Yeah, this is a sampling of what we do in the shop. The jar on top I brought in because that features a silver needle white tea, which I get asked a lot about. So this is sort of the king of all white teas that you can get your hands on.
Okay.
White tea is the least altered in production-wise of
less
all
processed?
teas. Yeah.
Okay.
So literally, they take the bud of the tea plants, the very young plant, and then maybe the top two like baby leaves, and they're hand-picked. They'll only pick the ones that have a very downy, feathery appearance on the leaf, which is where the white tea name comes from. So this comes from the Fujian province in China, and that's where most coveted white teas come from. So,
what's the strangest tea that you have? What's the most unusual tea that you have?
Oh, I brought that. Well,
do you know how they have that Coppolino coffee that
yes.
That's out of whatever kind of civic.
Okay, nothing that funky, Andrew. But we're more
funky
refined
is a good word,
than that. No, I would say the thing that throws people off the most, and we have it here today for you to smell, is Lapsang Souchong tea,
okay.
which is a Chinese tea, and it's been smoked in pine wood. So it has this people are smelling all these lovely Earl Greys or rose teas, and then they come to this, and their head reels back.
Yeah, it's powerful.
It's very powerful, and it's got a very, very smoky.
Smoked tea. Huh.
They say it's for the Scotch lover. So.
Oh, well, then I'm there.
So you'll have to give it a go.
Tea and a cigar, maybe. Okay. Now, that's a very interesting sort of science experiment. We were talking about science fiction when we started the show.
Yes.
I'm thinking like Alien or something.
It's not alive.
No? Okay. What is that?
Okay, so this is a flowering tea bud. So it starts off, these are all hand-stitched from green tea leaves or white tea leaves, and they'll have a dried rosette on the inside of them. So you use steaming hot water, because you'll never use a boiling water with a white tea or a green tea. Oh. You pop this bud in, and over time you'll see it starting to move and morph, and it blooms, and then you actually can serve your tea.
Wow.
So you serve it up, and then you can re-top it up actually and get quite a few pots, but it makes a really attractive centerpiece. We've had people do like weddings with this, with their dessert.
Terrific.
And then underneath, of course, is your traditional tea warmer to keep it nice and hot for you.
It's beautiful. It really is. Well, thank you for sharing all of this for you. We'll have a few more questions for you when we come back from the break, but
sure.
We do need to have a break at this moment. That was Susan Broughton of All Things Tea. Go to facebook.com and look for the All Things Tea / All Things Tea, and look for more information about that great company in Belmont Village. Well, we have to take a break. When you hear that music, that means we have to take a short break. When we return, we'll munch. No, sorry. We'll I gotta get this right. We'll meander. We'll meander and munch. You're listening to The Food Show.
This is The Food Show with Andrew Coppolino. To call Andrew, 519-570-2545. By cell, star 570. Or toll free, 1-800-570-5715. News.
And there we are. Welcome back. This is the last segment of the show. We got to roll. We have a few minutes left. It's Meander and Munch, a forest lunch. Now, doesn't that sound nice? I love when they write little things like that, because then I don't have to do it. I just have to try to get the words in the right order, which is sometimes a struggle for me. Come learn how to create a sustainable snack trail that provides a multi-sensory experience in a downtown Kitchener backyard. I was pretty intrigued when I heard this, so I'm on the line now with Jackie McMillan, who represents this group, Meander and Munch, a forest lunch. Hello, Jackie. Are you there? Are you there, Jackie?
I'm answering. I'm not. You're not hearing me?
I hear you. Yep, I hear you loud and clear now. What's Meander and Munch, a forest lunch? What's it all about?
Well, we're going to start off with talking about the wild foods that we're already eating here and do some sort of awareness-raising exercises. And then we're going to talk about how you design a backyard so that you've kind of got a backup food supply all the time. We're dealing with food security issues with things like the ice storm and things like, 9/11.
Hurricane Irene that's blowing through New York.
With the weather getting a little less predictable and agricultural crops being less reliable, it makes more sense to look at, well, what actually does grow here without any work.
So what is your group? Is this just a loosely formed group of sort of community activists that are offering a service, an information education session, I guess, about this?
Yeah. It's. Some of us are involved with Transition Town. Some of us are involved with, the local regional food initiatives. But in general, we're all looking at sustainability in food. How do you make a community more resilient, more self-reliant, so that if there are any crises, you can not only help yourselves and your neighbors, but you can extend that hand to further afield when they need that help.
And certainly in keeping with the whole idea of local, we try to buy produce that's grown in our backyards, and you're talking about creating edible plants and roots and whatever literally in your own backyard.
Yes, and it's quite possible to do a really attractive yard that's all in edibles, and that is a very pleasant place to spend time for you and for a lot of the other denizens of our cities. We've got rabbits living in our backyard. We've got a very diverse bird population, and the squirrels and chipmunks are pretty happy. And yet there's still quite enough for us to feed ourselves out of
Okay,
our
but
yard.
you're not advocating killing the squirrels or the rabbits, right?
No.
No, okay. Just that they're eating some of the same things that we could eat.
Exactly.
September 3rd is the date. Can you give people who are listening and might be interested in joining up or to getting involved with this organization what other contact information they need to learn about Meander and Munch, a forest lunch?
Okay, so probably the best thing at this point is to call myself and my partner Bill at 519-579-8943, and just let us know that you're registering, and that'll be fine. And the date is 9 until 5. There are snacks provided, and we'll certainly have a lot of wild foods out for people to sample and see what they think of. Just diving into this without a sense of what it's going to taste like can be a little daunting.
Okay, that's very good. And do they need to bring anything? Obviously, weather gear if it's a little cold or rainy, but do they need to bring any other equipment?
I don't think they need to bring any equipment. We're going to have, obviously they're going to want a notebook and a pencil, but, we're set up with some tarps if the weather's not great. We've got lots of facilities for teas and a few bathrooms, so I think things are going to work just fine.
And I guess when they call you, you'll disclose the location for this. Is that correct?
Exactly, yeah. We don't really want drop-bys. We want to know who's coming and be prepared so that we've got enough food and enough handouts and so on for the people that come.
Well, it sounds wonderful, and I'll give the phone number again, and I hope you get some contact, and we'll see if this thing can grow and get more people interested in doing this kind of worthwhile work in our own backyards.
Well, thanks for the call, Andrew.
Thank you. That's Jackie McMillan of Meander and Munch, a forest lunch, and phone Jackie at 519-579-8943. That's 519-579-8943, and you can learn a little bit more about what seems like a pretty cool little thing to do in the backyard. Leave the squirrels alone, though. Don't hurt the squirrels. Do plants and things. Yeah, that's right.
Vegetarian.
Yes. What's coming up at All Things Tea? I know that there are some sort of stated dates of events happening. Why don't you tell us a little bit about those?
Sure. We have a few neat things coming up. On Sunday, September 25th, we are set to launch a line of artisan tea-infused jellies. So they've been developed with myself and local chef Ro Kober from Log Cabin Heaven in Elora. Cool. So we have about 5 jellies to start with, but the neat thing about it is come on down for free to All Things Tea. You can taste the jams, jellies, and we'll be doing food pairing. So
nice.
Just beyond the scone, there's some really neat food pairings you can do with the jellies.
Beyond the scone.
Beyond the scone. That's a whole other business idea.
It's a little bit far away yet, but October 27th will bring a special kind of sort of eerie kind of thing too.
Absolutely. I'm a Halloween nut. Thank you. I'm a Halloween nut, so I am doing a Halloween open house just because. And you can come, and we're going to have basket draws. We are having a veteran tea leaf reader, so if you're interested, just go to my Facebook page, and I can give you more details.
That's great. Thanks a lot, Susan. That's Susan Broughton of All Things Tea, and we've also want to say thank you again to Anna Contini of showing up and showing us all the good things that will be happening at Taste Local, Taste Fresh on September 18th. Go to foodlink.ca. Well, that's it for the show for this week. Please visit 570news.com for an archive of past shows, and follow the Food Show at the twitter.com 570food show, and read my restaurant reviews in Echo Weekly each Thursday. Join us next week for a visit from Mama Papa Catering. Remember, eat wisely and eat well. Thank you for joining us here at the Food Show, only on 570 News.
Hi, this is Pete Travers, Program Director of 570 News, with your final tower update. The project is now complete. Done. We are back to broadcasting at full power on our normal pattern. For most of you, this means the interference and sketchy signal are now gone. Looking back on this project, it did seem like it was governed by Murphy's Law, and having said that, as one listener pointed out to me, Murphy was an optimist. Bottom line is, we really appreciate all your patience through this saga. Thanks for listening to 570 News.